Welcome to this week's episode of the Wise Guys Sports Show here on the Wise Guys YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts, Jim Crinity. I am joined as always by my co-host, Mike Martinez. We're sorry that we were off last week. Michael needs to drug his kid. We'll leave it at that. We also wanted to kind of give a little extra buffer here for what's going on in Mike's neck of the woods and everything. Let all the weather issues clear out. The good thing is now if we do run into technical issues going forward, we will be able to at least put up the audio version of the podcast. We'll create a visualizer. We've got a new intro coming. If you guys saw our draft show, the intro, that song's going to be used. We're going to be changing some things up with that, but you'll see that here because we've only got a couple of shows this month. We'll talk about that here during the translator segment. But Michael, let's get started tonight with the NBA. We are now on to the second round of the playoffs. We're already one game deep with all of the series. We've got another game going on tonight at the time we're taping this. We were almost going to do an impromptu show Monday night if the Cleveland Cavaliers would have lost. We'll come back to them in a moment. But Michael, getting the obvious out of the way of the Boston Celtics blowing the 3-1 lead to the Philadelphia 76ers, what was your biggest surprise of the first round?
It wasn't so much a surprise in the first round. Well, it was. As a stat I heard that I shared with you the other day, and I'm going to share it with the audience tonight. This postseason, LeBron James has won more games without Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic than Michael Jordan did in his entire career without Scottie Pippen. Put some context on that a minute. LeBron James is in season, 23?
Yes.
He's in his 40s. The guy on TikTok that I try and send you, he does like almost sermons. It's very hood, it's very ghetto, but he's talking about LeBron. And he said the words, he busted a nut in 2002, and now he's throwing him lobs in the playoffs in 2026. And
the guy who does the We're the Cleveland Browns skits for football
hilarious.
Has now started branching out into basketball.
Well, he's a big OKC fan, and he has been for years, apparently. He's hysterical. And the fact that he put We're the Cleveland Browns on a t-shirt, we need to find that for us.
Yeah.
Wear it and see if we can get him on. But no, I liked the way the Lakers played. I thought they should have beaten Houston in 5, not 6. Look, Minnesota taking out Denver with Ant being injured is massive. I think it gives them a big shot in the arm going into this round. OKC handled business pretty easily. We have to see how healthy the Spurs are. You had mentioned the Celtics losing to Philly. Embiid's out for game 2 tonight against the Knicks, who, by the way, all of a sudden look like the favorite. Is it just me, or do the Knicks look like the favorite all of a sudden?
You know, I was going to bring this up, and I was almost going to save this for our hockey segment tonight. How bad is it to be a New York sports fan in general? Let's run them all down real quick here, because you've got the two basketball teams. The Nets stink. The Knicks have their best shot to get to the finals, and then they're going to go up against an absolute juggernaut in OKC. Even I think San Antonio would outmuscle them. They're easily, I think, the favorites in the East for as dominating as they are, even though they're in a nail biter tonight in game 2 without Embiid in the Garden. You've got in football, the Jets and the Giants both picked in the top 5, and neither one is going anywhere for the next couple of years. In hockey, you've got the Rangers finished in the bottom of the conference. The Islanders look to improve. The Sabres are, dominating game 1 of their series. And they're going to have to go up against Carolina, who may not lose a game through the first 2 rounds in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then if they get through to the finals, they're going to have to play the Colorado Avalanche. And then in baseball, the Yankees
Can we not?
Mike, I have to say it. The Mets are the worst team in baseball at the time we're recording this. How bad is it to be a New York sports fan?
Well, let's go top to bottom there. Let's start with the football teams and just say, fuck them. Let's go to the bottom section. Listen, the Mets were the best team in baseball through 65 games last year, and they didn't make the playoffs. Let's see what how the other half lives. Let's play a shit first half and hopefully come back in the second half. As far as hockey goes, you're more of the expert on that than I am. But yes, the Buffalo Sabres very well could, with the way they played, get to the Stanley Cup Finals, or at least the Eastern Conference Finals. And the way Carolina has played is just insanity. And of course, Colorado is a dominant force out west. But going to the Knicks, Jim, this is the first time since 1999. Put some context on that. I was still living in Cleveland. You and I were still at Tri-C when the last time the Knicks were the favorite to get to the finals out of the Eastern Conference. So now with Brunson and Cat and those boys, the way they're playing right now, what they did to Atlanta was just mean. It was mean. It was absolutely fucking mean. That was horrible. I don't think anybody's beating OKC, to be honest with you. I think they're going to go back to back. But I will say this. The Knicks have a kryptonite in the finals. And if Embiid plays game 3 in Philly, you could see it. The minute they take Cat out of the game and his presence out, Brunson's not as effective because he doesn't have that other horse. When he had DiVincenzo and the rest of his Villanova buddies, he had more weapons. The Knicks are a 2-man team right now. It's Cat, it's Brunson. Can I help you? I fed you.
Well, you said Cat.
Speaking of Cat, yeah, right? There's an OTR. So, I mean, let's see how they do tonight. Let's see what they do going into game 3. But I want to spend a couple minutes on our Cavs because you had mentioned we were going to do a show Monday night if they lost on Sunday to Toronto. As I said to my cousin Eric, who is an Orlando fan, who also blew a 3-1 lead in the first round to the Detroit Pistons, I was looking for flights to go to Cleveland and slap people around at the end of the first quarter. When they went into half tied, I went, uh-oh. Kenny made adjustments. Let's see what happens. And they just blew the doors off them in the third quarter. And even in game 1 last night, this was a turnover issue. This was not Detroit is a better team. If you take 5 turnovers off the board for the Cavs win that game. So let's get game 2, get to Cleveland. You know the way which name do you want to use for their coach tonight, James? Do we have a pick?
I mean, he won game 1. I don't think I'm going to use any different name for him. He came back from a 3-1 deficit, in that series, got them through. He's still playing with house money. He still got him as the number 1 seed. If they get through Cleveland, let's actually see, because this was something where we thought Detroit was going to be a top 6. We didn't think they were going to be the number 1. And then somebody else said it best. They actually said this is like, they're starting to draw the Michael Bulls with the Detroit of this year because it's a one-man show. Cade really has no supporting cast. If you bottle him up, they look lost. It's a whole bunch of role players. Somebody else on Cleveland radio said it. It might have been Lima. It might have been Uncle Rizzo. They actually said it was very much like when LeBron was here the first time and he got him to the finals against San Antonio, is because you got Cade and a whole bunch of Ira Newbills, Boobie Gibsons, and Drew Goodens on that team.
Yeah, they really do. And the one difference I will say is that 2017 played some sick defense. Detroit can step up the defensive game. They're not on that level. Again, if the Cavs don't shoot themselves in the foot, we're talking about a Cleveland 1-0 lead where if you get game 2 somehow in Auburn Hills and then go to Cleveland for 2, it's over. It's over.
We'll see, but if they lose this, I'm going to start referring them as the TRDs. I'm sorry. I'm going to start calling them the sardines. I was thinking of this earlier, as in SRD, second round darlings, because basically they battled through the first round. We saw it 2 years ago. They should have beaten Orlando team. They went to 7. And then shit the bed against the Knicks. Last year, they beat the piss out of Atlanta. They shit the bed against Indiana. This year, they should have taken Toronto out in a lot fewer games. And do they shit the bed against Detroit? If that's the case, I don't think it's a matter of the coaching. I think you got to really make some legitimate changes to the core of this team because it's not built the way that it is to be able to advance past the second round.
I have two thoughts on that. And the first one is, how many Cleveland teams over the years are consistent playoff teams that have a shot at winning a title?
I understand that we're talking about a 50-win team, but Michael, you and I talked about it on the phone on Sunday when we were thinking of actually doing the segment on Monday. I don't know another time that we've actually, as Cleveland fans, been more underwhelmed in a 50-win team than we are in this year's Cavaliers team, especially after that first round series. Waiting now, everyone thinks in the media, waiting for the other shoe to drop, thinking that Detroit's got house money. How many of us in Cleveland are waiting on the other shoe to drop to actually see, are they going to choke in the Eastern Conference semifinals again? And if they get through, oh yeah, they're going to probably have to play a Knicks team that's going to blow their doors off of them with the way that they're playing.
Well, if the Knicks blow the doors off them, it's because they caught fire. It's not anything else.
The Knicks are just a better team, Mike. I'm sorry. It's, you got to stop looking at it with wine colored glasses. You look on it, the Knicks are just, we said going into the year that it was going to be the Cavs or the Knicks. The Knicks got the 3 seed. The Cavs were the 4 seed. The Cavs could have actually played some guys down the stretch and taken that 3rd seed or even challenged for that 2nd seed. Would it have mattered with the way that this team plays in the first round of the playoffs the last few years?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But there was only game 1 last night, so let's pump the brakes on a little bit. But at the same time, my issue with blowing this thing up, and again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The one thing that the two teams that play in the cold weather in Cleveland have rarely had over their history is consistency. That group stayed together in the 80s and 90s, and they were good year in and year out. These guys,
had consistency, though.
Really? Because you got a coach for only a 2nd season.
But it's consistent. One team goes to the playoffs and chokes in the second round. The other one loses double-digit games a year. At least they're consistent. We'll talk about that as we get closer to training camp.
You're correct when you say that. That's absolutely 100% correct. The difference is one team goes to the second round, wins 50 games. The other one is absolute dog shit, but still sells out every game. But anyways, look, I was ready to slap people around if they lost Sunday night. Then they caught fire and they won the game. I did not watch the replay from last night. I didn't watch last night because I was between work and up with Bobby. So I haven't sat down and watched the highlight package or the condensed game from it. I will do that before game 2 starts. However, my issue here is if we're sitting here waiting for the other shoe to drop and it doesn't, why can't we just enjoy this? Why can't we enjoy the first level of consistent winning since pre-LeBron? How about Jim, how about the first level consistent winning since you and I were in fucking elementary school that LeBron James isn't tagged to?
Here's the reason why is because they're not as dominant as when LeBron was here because we knew LeBron could elevate this team and take them to places nobody ever thought of, getting them to the conference finals. We don't have that. They've got an all caliber talent in Donovan Mitchell. They've got a top 75 all-time player, James Harden, on the back end of his career, who never plays well in the first round of the playoffs. Evan Mobley went from defensive player of the year, albeit won it by kind of default after Wemby's injury last year, and took a dramatic step back this year. And oh yeah, they've got to actually go up against currently the best team in the Eastern Conference. They have to play the hottest team in basketball in the next round if they get through, and have to play an absolute juggernaut if they get to the finals. That's the problem now, is that we're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop because we're not only looking over our shoulder, we're looking ahead and actually seeing the skies are getting more and more black as we're getting closer. Certainly not black, but definitely more ominous.
I agree with that. And it's not because they're a bad team. It's because let's look at it very logically. If you beat the number one seed here, you get the hottest team in the game. And if you beat the hottest team in the game, you then get the defending champion with the guy who in SGA who is otherworldly. It, again, it's just something that blows my mind that it doesn't seem like anybody's enjoying it. And you're right. It is the most underwhelming 50-win team that you've ever seen. They still won 50 games. I mean, they still won 50 games.
The other aspect I actually think we all have to think about, and nobody really has, is that short of Philadelphia beating the Knicks and Minnesota beating San Antonio and coming through, you're also going to be the road team for any other playoff series you're going to have getting through the rest of these playoffs. So you don't have that advantage because you're playing much better at home than you do on the road right now. And that's the other aspect.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's clear, and I'll be honest with you, just watching the environments in the playoffs, Cleveland's a different animal. It's just a different animal at Nomo Romo Fijo. I've been waiting to say that for a while too.
You're glad I brought it up today in the chat.
I am. I actually am. So listen, we've got at least 3 more games to dissect this team and see what they're going to do, and then talk about what they're going to do next season. But I'm going to sit down, and tomorrow night I am going to watch it. I am going to enjoy it tomorrow night. I'm going to, once I put him to sleep, I'm not going to play the video game. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch the game, and I'm going to be like, you know what? My boys are in the playoffs. I may even put my jersey on tomorrow night. I don't know.
It's a transition we've done all too often, and we're going to do it again. We go from the hardwood to the ice. Mike, we shift from the second round of the NBA playoffs. We are now knee deep in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, although their scheduling is so messed up that we've got 2 series that are now on to game 3, and the very last series didn't actually face off until tonight. The NHL's got a scheduling problem. Not only do they have a playoff seeding problem, they've got a scheduling problem. But we saw in the first.
Did they not start the other playoff series so Gary Bettman could do the fucking lottery for the draft last night? What the hell was that?
We did, and actually, how convenient is it that the Vancouver Canucks trade away the best player, finish at the very bottom of the draft, get the 3rd pick, and Toronto ends up with number 1?
Oh, geez, that wasn't a frozen envelope or anything.
Which is funny is because with the way that they designed the draft, they actually said that the 2 ping pong balls that were coming up to the top, one was Toronto and the one right below it was Winnipeg. And like Winnipeg was that close to getting number 1, and Winnipeg's ball knocked Toronto's up the chute.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but
it's because they're named the Jets.
What? Really? Knowing I'm a Jets fan?
Am I wrong?
Yeah. So in the first round, we saw Colorado handle business, ending Anze Kopitar's legendary career with a 4-game sweep over the LA Kings. They move on as the President's Trophy winners. They take on the Minnesota Wild, who outlasted the Dallas Stars in a bit of an upset in 6 games. And now Colorado leads that series in the second round already 2-0, shifting back to Minneapolis, St. Paul. In the Pacific Division, Utah fell in their playoff debut to Vegas in 6 games, and then Anaheim kept lightning in a bottle going, knocked out Connor McDavid and the Oilers in 6 games, and Vegas leads that second round series 1-0. If we shift over to the Metropolitan Division, Carolina swept Ottawa 4-2. And now there's a ton of speculation. Is Brady Tkachuk going to end up getting traded this offseason, even though he still, I think, has a year or 2 left on his deal with the Senators? And then the Philadelphia Flyers, not having made the playoffs in 6 years, dominated Pittsburgh 4-2 in that series. But Carolina's already leading that series 2-0. And then if we finally finish up in the Atlantic Division, naturally, I'm going to save my boys for last, but Montreal goes into Tampa, wins game 7 and advances, and the Buffalo Sabres outscore Boston 13-3 in the 3 games in Boston and knocks the Bruins out in 6 games and have just finished off a 4-2 win where they led 4-1 after the first period in game 1 of the division semifinals. So as it stands right now, we got Colorado, Vegas, Buffalo, and Carolina as your leaders in your playoff series. Mike, what stands out to you here?
A couple things. One, Buffalo really taking advantage of the great season they had to beat Boston, which is always good. Was a little shocked and saddened that the Battle of Pennsylvania went the way it did, because it is the last run of Sid and Gino. I mean, as far as Colorado goes, they've just dominated really from opening puck drop to now. I mean, it's not too surprising, to me anyway. The other thing that surprised me was off the ice. Did you see what Wyatt Russell and his father were doing?
This sounds familiar. I might have seen this. Go ahead.
So Wyatt Russell, of course, the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, is a Buffalo Sabres fan. And he said that if the Sabres broke the streak of not being in the playoffs, he would drink one of the local beers out of a Sabre.
Yep, the Sabre mug. Yep.
And dive into Lake Erie. Well, not only is Wyatt Russell a man of his word and did that in 45-degree water, his father was on video egging him on.
You leave Herb Brooks alone.
I knew you were going to say that too. I prefer him in Overboard, but that's just me.
Also, remember, it's Snake Plissken. It's the original Solid Snake.
That's true. I escaped from New York just like he did. Anyway. So,
wait, I got the sound.
How come you and I always get into the giggles when it's the NHL that we're talking about? But in all seriousness now, the Stanley Cup Finals are almost breaking the way we thought they would outside of Minnesota beating Dallas in round 1. It's been pretty much chalk. I think anybody going into that Pittsburgh-Philly series knew Philly was the better team. However, your nostalgic heartstrings were pulling for Gino and Sid to get one more run in, especially with all, I said it before, our childhood and our early adulthood, the athletes and teams are all going away. We don't have any of them left.
I blame the Pittsburgh loss on the fact that they wore those yellow alternate jerseys through the entire playoffs. Had they gone with the black, maybe it might have been another story.
Why are you wearing piss on your body like that?
I don't get that, but I mean, this is where the seeding problem comes into play, is because none of the 2 seeds got through with the way that the division format sets up. And this is where they need to go back to the 1 versus 8, because Dallas had the second best record in the league and they went out in the first round.
Yeah, but I don't think it's I understand your seeding issue, and I think we've discussed that at length too, and I am in agreement with you. But again, the playoffs are a different animal, Jim. I mean, how many times have we seen, we talked about it. How many times have we seen a 1 versus 8 that goes down to the wire? We talked about the greatest upset in NBA playoffs history on the phone the other day when what Denver did to Seattle in the first round in a 5-game series, 25, 30 years ago? Coming back from 0-2 in a 5-game series, winning 3 in a row. It really just is a matter of the matchup more than anything else. And I'll be honest with you, I think Dallas caught a matchup. How they play against Minnesota during the year, I don't think they played them very well. I think they caught the worst matchup for them.
Yeah, I mean, but Minnesota actually still finished with 104 points, which was still, there were 8 teams that finished over 100 points in the NHL. Dallas's 112 was 3rd best in all of hockey. I mean, this is actually, if you had a traditional 1 versus 8 seeding, here's what you would have had in the first round. Carolina would have actually ended up playing Philly Buffalo would have gotten Pittsburgh, Tampa would have gotten Ottawa, and Montreal, Boston in the first round. In the West, you would have had
Hmm.
Colorado against LA. Same thing happened there. That's what you got. Dallas would have gotten Anaheim, Minnesota would have gotten Utah, and Vegas would have gotten Edmonton. I think those would have been much better matchups than this division rival crap that they were doing back in the early 80s before the league expanded out.
Okay, no, I agree with you. But we've said that the 1 through 1A, 2-7, that should be the way they do the playoffs uh, each year.
And they're getting a
Still had the
lot of kickback that they need to change that before long, too. There's a lot
but
of
it's
groundswell from the players starting to show that, too.
Yeah, but also each series that you just mentioned had a chance to go with the lower seed winning. Outside of the 1-8s, I don't think either of the 1-8s would have gone that way. But a 2-7, I could see Philly winning that series. I tell you what, if I'm the Sabres, I'm a
I don't
little
see
more scared.
Pittsburgh beating Buffalo.
That's what I was going to say. I could see Philly giving Carolina all it was worth, but I honestly think Buffalo would have been more scared of Pittsburgh because of those two players. If Gino and
Yeah.
Sid the Kid caught fire, that's a wrap. That's like McDrysaddle catching fire. You're not beating them. I'm interested to see where it
But
goes. I hope that Buffalo gets through to the finals.
I do too. And I mean, if you're Colorado, you've got to get through. You've got to win this thing because somebody brought up a stat that if they don't win, it extends the President's Trophy curse. Mike, can you name the last time that the President's Trophy winner won the Stanley Cup? And I'm going to give you a hint. It's a team that I abhor more than any in hockey.
Was it Detroit? Not Detroit, Chicago?
Chicago in 2013 with the scandal.
Still not as bad as a team from Canada not winning.
So, in terms of President's Trophy winners, just going back to, um, you know, really since they started establishing the President's Trophy, um, President's Trophy winners who won the Cup 13 was Chicago, 08 Detroit, 02 Detroit, 01 Colorado, 99 Dallas, 94 the Rangers, 89 Calgary, 87 Edmonton, because I don't think they established the President's Trophy until the late 80s officially in that regard. So what we're talking 13 years if Colorado doesn't win it this year, that drought extends. I could definitely see them winning. I don't know if there's any. I think Dallas might have been the only team that could have realistically challenged them in the West. Them against Buffalo would be a very entertaining series. I think them against Carolina is the way that a lot of people are thinking, because I think if there's one team left in this tournament that has a shot of really taking it to Colorado with the physicality and the way that they play, it's Carolina, even though they've gotten nothing out of Seth Jarvis so far in these playoffs.
Well, I mean, if Jarvis gets off the deck and plays well moving forward from here, that's a new statement. You know, if you get to the Stanley Cup Finals, if you can't get up for that, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you? I think you're right. I think Carolina is the one team that can bang with them that's going to get the job done if they have a chance to. Now, I will say this. I want to say, how can I put this? You know how you and I always said that if the Browns won the Super Bowl, you and I would stand on the 480 bridge and watch the city burn to the ground?
Yep. Because we'd
I
be
want
able
to
to
see a
see
mother.
it from the bridge.
Yeah, I want to see a motherfucker go over the falls if the Sabres win the cup.
Have you seen what they've done with the falls now with this series against Montreal?
No, I haven't.
On the U.S. side, they have the falls lit up blue and yellow and white. On the Canadian side, since the Habs are the only team left, they've got the falls lit up red, white, and blue.
That's awesome.
That is very, very cool. It's
That is very cool.
I would like to see, everyone's hoping for a Canadian Stanley Cup winner, not named the Toronto Maple Leafs one day. It's not going to be this year, regardless of whether the Habs get through or not. But also, real quick before we lock this up, something else that came out between yesterday and today, all the finalists were announced for the NHL awards with the exception of the Hart Trophy. So let's run through these real quick. The top goaltender of the Vezina Trophy is coming down to Ilya Sorokin of the Islanders, Jeremy Swayman of the Bruins, and Andrei Vasilevsky, the perennial finalist from the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lady Byng Trophy for the Sportsmanship Award, Cole Caulfield of Montreal, Anze Kopitar from the LA Kings, and Jake Sanderson from Ottawa, both all very deserving. The Bill Masterson Trophy for Perseverance and Dedication, Rasmus Dahlin from the Sabres, Gabriel Landeskog from the Avalanche, and Jonathan Taves from the Jets. The Selke Trophy for the top defensive forward, Anthony Cirelli from Tampa Bay, Brock Nelson from Colorado, Nick Suzuki from Montreal. The Jack Adams Award for the top coach, John Cooper from the Tampa Bay Lightning, Lindy Ruff from the Buffalo Sabres, and
Oh,
and there was one more in there, and there for whatever reason they're cutting this off. And then the Calder Trophy is coming down to Bennett Seneke from the Anaheim Ducks, Ivan Demidov from the Montreal Canadiens, and they are actually both already basically receiving their participation award because we all know if it does not go to Matthew Schaefer from the New York Islanders, first of all, it's a sham. If it doesn't go unanimously, whoever votes against him getting first place votes needs to have their credentials severely reviewed by the Writers Association. I think Matthew
yeah.
Schaefer's Calder winner's got to be the easiest slam dunk there is. I also think Lindy Ruff has got to be a slam dunk for Coach of the Year.
I was going to say that to you too. No disrespect to the kid from the Islanders, the slam dunk in those awards is Lindy Ruff as Coach of the Year. When you bring a team that was not expected to do a damn thing, and you and I both said we didn't see them doing much when we did our NHL preview back in the fall, to bring them here, what were they, 2 seed in the East?
Yep. And Atlantic
You get the
Division
2 seed.
champions.
Yep, you get the 2 seed in the East. You slap the first round opponent out, and I really think they're going to smack around Montreal. Yeah, he's the Coach of the Year, and the kid from as good as the kid from the Islanders was, I believe this is more of a turn in your voting card if you don't vote Lindy Ruff to win this thing.
And then the only other two award finalists I don't think that have been announced yet. I think we get the Norris finalist trophy for best defenseman tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. We all know basically it's going to be Cale Makar, Zach Werenski from the Columbus Blue Jackets, Cale Makar from the Colorado Avalanche, and then just throw a third name in there. And then the Hart Trophy, then just, toss those up. It's you definitely going to have a guy from the Avalanche in there somewhere. It's just all a matter. Is it going to be Landeskog? Is it going to be Nathan McKinnon? It's a take your, pick your poison here.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we'll see what the other ones come out with, and of course we'll be following up on the playoffs as we go forward. But I'm excited. I am for the first time in my life I'm pulling for Buffalo.
Let's. Is it weird to think that the Buffalo Sabres could end up advancing further in the playoffs than any team in New York for the 2026 calendar year?
No, I don't think that's crazy.
Them or the Knicks? What? Oh, how the turns have tabled.
Makes my head hurt.
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
And in really one of the first actual blast segments we've had since we've gone to the pre-recorded format, Mike. If this was last week, we would have recapped part of the NFL draft. We can actually look at that as we get closer to training camp and we actually start previewing teams with how draft picks set in. I know you and I are going to definitely have a lot to talk about with the Cleveland Browns draft. We've got a lot of thoughts on that as off-season workouts and OTAs are going to be coming up here before too long. But we wanted to actually lump three things in tonight. And these are in no particular order. Since we just finished talking hockey, the first thing, and it was just announced earlier today, the announcement is official. The PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, is expanding again. And welcome as the ninth team to the league, Detroit.
Yeah, and that's one of the places they needed to go. I mean, if you think about it, Detroit being one of the original 6 in the NHL, if I'm not right, I'm
Correct.
Not incorrect about that. Okay. I think you needed to grow the women's game. You need to have a team in each of the original 6 cities. So adding Detroit is really good. You had mentioned something to me earlier and I think it should happen, they need to make a stop in Cleveland. I think a PWHL team in Nomo Romo Fijo will be very, very good.
I don't know if it would actually be this soon, but at least this is good because now the league is not finished expanding because they are talking more expansion. They're just, it's not set in stone because they're not going to play with nine. They're definitely going to, whenever they expand out, they're doing it in even numbers. So are we getting 10? Are we going all the way out to 12? There's a lot of talk that Chicago's definitely got to be looked at. There's some people thinking Denver because really it's even by putting a team in Detroit, even if you put one in Chicago, you've still got the two very, very far out West Coast teams with Seattle and Vancouver. And then you've basically got to go east of the Mississippi, for the remaining 8 teams in the league. So it'd be nice to maybe put one in St. Louis, Kansas City, Denver, get something in the middle of the map, Dallas, Houston, somewhere in there, unless you're actually looking to expand all the way out to 12 with this. Where is Quebec City on the table? Is Halifax on the table? Are we going to put a team in a market that an NHL team doesn't actually have to be able to try to grow the game a little bit more? And if you're going to put a team in Cleveland, you'd probably be better off putting them in the Wolstein Center, because it's not like if you're going to put a team in Chicago, you may not put them in the United Center. You might be able to put them in the Allstate Arena, which draws 14. So this way, even if they don't sell out every night, you're still getting 10, and it's still very good revenue coming in for them, as opposed to a 22,000 seat with hockey capacity United Center. But it definitely makes sense. Congratulations to Detroit. A lot of people in this part of the country, there's a lot of people thinking Quebec would actually make a lot of sense. Certainly Chicago, because of the geographic drive. It's 3 hours each way, to Chicago from there. It's what, an hour and a half to get to Quebec at that point. You know, Quebec City's been starving for an NHL team every time they talk about expanding. God knows if it's going to happen if they expand out again to 34. But congratulations to Detroit. Just don't put one in Pittsburgh just yet, please.
I think Cleveland gets a PWHL team after the and I hope they call them the Rockers come back. I think if you can establish a WNBA franchise there that does well, I think the PWHL will give Cleveland a franchise.
I like that mentality. I really do. We go from a team, we go from an organization and a league that is flourishing and expanding, to one that is floundering and almost really left for dead. And now the story came out earlier in the week that the public investment fund from the Saudi government is pulling funding for Live Golf at the end of this season, and they've already canceled a couple of tournaments going forward through the rest of the season. I believe the 2 tournaments held over in the Middle East and in Saudi Arabia are already being canceled with the ongoing conflict over there. Um, Mike, is this league basically dead in the water right now? Because John Rahm has already said, because of his contract, he's still locked in. Bryson DeChambeau has actually said if the league folds, he's going to actually not go right back to the PGA Tour. He's going to develop some sort of YouTube thing. These guys are locked into their contracts, and the PGA is going to make them walk over the coals 2 or 3 times over before they get accepted back in, before they get the sweetheart deal that Brooks Koepka got.
Yeah, I think Liv has played its last meaningful round. If you look at what, not only the money thing with the PIF being pulled, I want you to look at the tournaments and the attendance at them. For the first time in our lives, and it's because of who it is, politics is starting to have a real effect on the sports world. And I'm not talking boycotting the Olympics like we did in 1984 in the winter, and so the Soviets did in the summer that year. I'm talking professional ranks. It's having, and Live Golf, of course, being at the forefront of this, with those guys who wanted to play the game and make more money, which I get, did it a little bit of an underhanded way, and I understand why the PGA players were pissed about it. this is taking people's livelihoods, and I think that's not being talked about enough. Yeah, these dudes make a ton of money, but it's still it's not like they have a job. It's guaranteed income. They've got to play well and earn. And when you take those funds out, and not only are the funds coming out, sponsors aren't going to stay into these things. You're not going to have, what was the old golf tournament Fred Couples used to get the sponsors exemption from all the time? Was that the Shell Houston Open that he did every year?
Yes.
Yeah. You don't have companies that are going to do that for players to go in and win. It's hilarious because they jumped ship, they took the money and ran, and it's falling apart. But it's not cool when you add the human factor in.
I mean, it's to the point now where the team golf style, it's more fun to watch the Tigers tour, the indoor one, um, than it is the live golf. It's poor attendance, terrible ratings. They're on the CW for all it friggin' matters. That for years was known as the Arrowverse channel. Um, and I was a big fan of the Arrowverse, and I'm sorry when all those shows ended. I mean, they do pretty decent coverage for sports, but it's like putting a chandelier in a haunted house. At that point, you
Yeah.
can only dress it up so much.
Yeah. I will disagree with you. I would say it was the Supernatural channel. But that's of my preference and the longest running American sci-fi series ever.
Well, it did go in shifts. It was like the Buffy and the Star Trek channel. Then it shifted to like Vampire Diaries and Supernatural. Then it became the Arrowverse channel. Then it became whatever the hell it is now.
The Live Golf and we cover the NCAA tournament channel.
Very true. We'll probably talk in the next couple of weeks when it gets ratified. We were actually going to talk about the tournament expanding out to 78. And when that becomes official, we'll definitely do a segment on that here later on this summer, certainly before the start of next season. But Mike, we'll end tonight's major conversation on a bit of a somber note, even though he was a very polarizing figure. And it was the report earlier today that media mogul Ted Turner passed away at the age of 87 in his home in Florida. Now, he did spend a lot of his younger years in Ohio, so we do have some ties to him, even though he was, originally in the Cincinnati area. But we kind of have to bring this up because of the impact that Turner had on a lot of how we see sports now. We know all the networks, we know his media mogul status, we know CNN, TNT, TBS. He had his hand in True TV. We know that basically the WTBS Superstation was molded at nights in the summer around the Atlanta Braves. We know he had a hand in bringing the Atlanta back to the NHL with the Thrashers before they moved up to Winnipeg. We know he sold off his shares of the company in later years with the AOL Time Warner merger. But we also have to establish that, if we were to look at the order, there was always four major networks in terms of broadcasting. There was the ABC, ESPN. They were two separate and now have come together. NBC, CBS, and Fox. And we also can really say now Turner is kind of, even though that they're the smallest of the one of the five in there, so to speak, they've really climbed the ranks in terms of their coverage, their presentation, and and really their overall footprint with everything that they got their hands in.
That's very true. Think about it this way. Let's talk about the things Ted Turner did. Ted Turner is the man responsible for bringing the Atlanta Braves to prominence in the 90s. He bought that team and he let the baseball people run the team, culminating in that unfortunate championship in 1995 against the Indians. The dude married Jane Fonda. Very famously, though, Jim, I think Ted Turner's biggest impact on the sports world was not with the Braves, and it was not with Turner Broadcasting or TNT. Ted Turner is the guy who handed the reins to Eric Bischoff and put WCW up as a legitimate contender to Vince McMahon's, at the time, WWF. AEW is great. It's amazing. MJF is a phenomenal face of an organization. There was nothing like the Monday Night Wars.
You know, what's funny is I actually watched a 6-hour compilation of Jim Cornette's history in WCW with him narrating it because he had like dirt sheets and scripts and his notes and everything with the historian that he is from 1989 and 1990. So we're talking like when Turner bought the NWA from Jim Hurd and Crockett Promotions and everything, and the whole transition. And I can't think of his name. Um, going with the Monday Night Wars and the Billionaire Ted thing that the WWE parodied, and then him butting heads when Vince McMahon, again making the Braves very prominent, and then even though he didn't have a hand in really seeing what the Turner networks do now in terms of sports, because if let's think about it. CBS is known for college football, college basketball. Um, they used to be known for baseball. They used to be and really their biggest footprint now is the NFL. Fox basically has their hand in everything in some aspect, really with the exception of basketball and hockey, because they sold those off with the merger where it went to FanDuel, who is now actually in the process of folding. ABC, ESPN covers every sport that there is, with really up until this season, really the exception of Major League Baseball. NBC has football. NBC's now got basketball. They got baseball. Although I will say this much, I was actually thinking of how I would rank the five, and I got to put I got to put NBC on the bottom right now, because I think that really, since they acquired baseball and basketball, their coverage of those two sports right now is atrocious. The only reason that I think that they're actually like not off the page is because of how good their coverage is for their auto racing, their golf, and Sunday night football. But Turner has they cover college football, college basketball, NASCAR, golf, wrestling. They've got, and really the only thing that they don't, and hockey, the only thing that they don't have their hand in is the NFL, because the NFL's only got a certain amount of games that they can shell out. They were supposed to have some NFL games a few years ago, have done it, and then Netflix took over that contract.
Yeah, and they were never, I mean, you and I can remember being kids in Cleveland, and TBS would have the Braves on, what, 2-3 days a week. And
Easily,
then, of
yeah.
course, and WGN would have the Cubs, even though we were in Cleveland.
But it's also the same thing when we were growing up. The Adelphia channel always either had Islanders or Knick games on.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But I will say this. I still believe that his biggest thing was WCW. I mean, you are talking about, you brought Hulk Hogan away from Vince McMahon. You think about the names that came out at WCW when Ted Turner owned it. Sting became massive. Ric Flair, who was a big star, got his actual global U.S. media introduction there. Who else? Lex Luger, you mentioned him. But then you had, maybe when he was still involved, the greatest heel turn in sports entertainment history when Hulk Hogan joined the NWO. For Ted Turner, and basically that was Ted Turner wanting to do this. Fuck you, Vince. Is why he did those things. We haven't seen someone do that to Vince McMahon since his son kicked him out of the business.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
So, don't get me wrong, that smug motherfucker during that 95 World Series sitting next to Jane Fonda, I wanted to punch him every time they showed him on TV. And I'm not an Indians fan. I wanted to hit him. Maybe that's because the Braves used to beat the hell out of the Mets, but that's not the point of this.
And I wanted to beat the hell out of them too. It's just because remember when you and I were kind of growing up, I was also a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan with Bonds, Bonilla, Van Slyke, Drabek, those guys. What, we beat Atlanta once in the playoffs those years?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. Figure 90, the Pirates lost to Cincinnati. 91 and 92.
Shut up. Don't say his name. Do not say his name, and I don't mean Joe Hendry.
Who was I
Sorry,
going to say?
that was the wrong button. That was the wrong button. It should have been the one next to it.
Okay, can we not do that right now?
I was not going to say Mike LaValliere. I was not going to do that. That's mean.
You're an asshole. I love you. You're an asshole. ASSHOLE, everybody.
Audio.
Turn the clock back to the segment that we had, the conversation we had before we came on the air tonight.
Yeah, we were. I was saying how the Dennis Leary "I'm an Asshole" song should be our intro, because we do shit like that to each other. But no, Ted Turner is one who will be missed. Jim, if I can just add one more thing onto it, the baseball world lost John Sterling just the other day. And for a Met fan to be affected by that tells you the impact he had. And speaking of Ted Turner, John Sterling, before he became the voice of the Yankees, was the voice of the Atlanta Braves on TBS. And how do I know this? Not because of the tributes he got. Because on July 3rd, 1985, the Mets and Braves started on a 19-inning game that, because of rain delays, ended at 2:30 in the morning. And then the Braves let the fireworks off in downtown Atlanta. And why do I know that? Because my father and my grandfather watched every pitch of that game and then woke us up laughing when they set the fireworks off.
And from my own personal kind of retrospect, even though it was very, very young in my day, John Sterling was not only the voice of the Yankees for all those years and also the Braves. He also was one of the original voices of the New York Islanders. A lot of people forget.
Yes.
He did actually call, I believe, their first Stanley Cup in 1980. So, there's a lot of voices that kind of transcend like that. And John Sterling is certainly going to be missed. Whether you hated the Yankees, you always loved a good John Sterling call. Whether you hate the Guardians, everybody loves a good, Tom Hamilton call. There's just certain guys out there that their voice just resonates, and John Sterling was certainly one of those.
Absolutely. And also, we're a show that talks about all sports, and we talk about a lot of women's sports. We talked about PWHL tonight. We have done full episodes basically on the WNBA. He was the one who pushed for Susan Waldman to become the other voice of the New York Yankees when he needed a new partner after Michael Kay, of course, stepped away to become the voice of the Yankees on TV on the Yes Network. He was a class human being that.
Oh, wait, wrong. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you.
Well, you brought up AEW. I had to throw a Daniel Bryan in there.
I understand.
Bryan Danielson, my bad.
Whatever. I mean, it's no one liked hearing the Yankees win, but now you know you won't. It's a little much.
Because you know what we'll hear instead?
What's that?
The Yankees lose.
You didn't do it right. It's the Yankees lose.
You know what? You know what happens when you correct me, Michael? You know what happens?
What's that?
You know what really happens?
What's that?
You just made the list.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It is a time when James and I gives each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and we come up with the first thing that pops into our brains. Now, unfortunately, because we've had a few weeks off from the translator, brains may not be working all that well. So bear with us a minute while we figure this thing out. James, I had a really messed up thought during the PWHL segment, and I'm going to voice it to you here. They just can't name that team the Red Wings.
Say that one more time because your camera had a little static on my end.
They just can't name the women's team the Red Wings. Look it up on Urban Dictionary. Anyways. So, Jim.
Just like if they were in Cleveland, they couldn't call them the Steamers.
I thought the Oyster Catchers did that one.
You're gonna die, clown!
That's amazing. So, Jim, how many Jericho clips do you have on there?
Just 2 for now.
For now. Well, Jericho is a minefield of quotable things. So, Jim, your first name in tonight's YZ Translator is a name that came up in the last 2 days. Possibly one of the stupidest baseball players on the planet, but yours is Detroit Tigers left-handed pitcher Framber Valdez.
You no good motherfucker. Can you see the name that I have written down for you?
Are you serious?
I was going to give him to you, you no good piece of shit.
You know what the funny thing is?
I don't know who's worse right now.
Me or
I don't know
Framber
who's
Valdez?
worse right now. You or him.
Hold on. I didn't think you were speaking to me at first. I thought you were talking about him. It goes both ways there.
I mean, the fact that now, and Buster only said it perfectly, could he is the dumbest person in baseball right now because now that's another starter. He's going to miss it with the 5-game suspension. He's going to miss 1, if not 2 starts, depending on how the schedule rounds through. And now you're not going to have Tarek Skubal until probably July, maybe early August at this point with his shoulder surgery. Detroit's in a lot of trouble. I mean, we said that the Guardians had a possibility of contending in this division. It just got a whole lot clearer right now because even as great as Detroit's offense is, their pitching was actually going to be putting them over the top. If you're a Cleveland Guardians fan and then you get Tanner Bybee finally waking up to where he can win a game, and as Gavin Williams staying as dominant as he is, Valdez may have actually had, even though it's only a week's worth, he's now basically going to be thought of as a repeat offender because somebody actually said it, and I don't know if it was Buster in the same segment, but it was the first 4-seam fastball he's thrown all year, and he dots Story between the shoulder blades, and that's why he got 5 games, and he's lucky he didn't get 10.
He is lucky he didn't get 10, and I am sorry that I read your mind again. I seem to have a problem with that when it comes to the translator.
Michael, your name tonight, I'm going to throw one back your way. You're going to hit me, in the head figuratively. I'm actually going to hit you in the heart, and I'm actually going to go after your football team here. They don't have a quarterback right now because now there's a story coming out earlier today that he is mulling his future and possibly thinking of a TV career. And it is current New York Jets quarterback and Social Security veteran Russell Wilson.
When the hell did they sign Russell Wilson?
Wasn't he on their roster last year? Well, actually,
that's the Giants.
I take that back. He is weighing an offer for the Jets, or if he's just going to hang him up and go to network TV, according to ESPN reports today.
Well, what could be worse, him or Geno? Since they traded for Geno Smith. Look, my affiliation with the New York Jets, well, let's put it this way. I've always rooted for underdogs. They're such dog shit, I won't root for them anymore.
And yet here in Cleveland, somebody actually had the balls to say, well, you sent me the damn clip, is that, they vilified Shedeur Sanders so much that they're actually willing to forgive Deshaun Watson. No, we're not.
He didn't say fans. He said the white media.
And a lot of those are fans. There's a lot of fans that have the same type of sentiment.
Exactly.
Realistically, they want to be able to squeeze whatever they can out of him, because this way they know if they can move him possibly, for draft picks, if somebody wants to pick up maybe 50% of what he's owed for this season, great. And Shedeur's not playing for this year. He's playing for his job next year when they draft his replacement.
If Shedeur has a good year, they're not going to draft his replacement. They're going to do what they haven't done ever, and that's continue to build around a quarterback. Sorry, Tank has decided he wants to be on the show.
So we will come to you guys here again next week. We're going to be taking a week off later this month, maybe 2. I've got my oral surgery coming up. We've got Memorial Day coming up, but we also did want to actually spend the last minute or so throwing out, Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to Mrs. Rican. I know I've got 3 cousins who actually all are going to be becoming mothers here in the next couple of months, within a couple of weeks of each other, ironically enough.
Wow.
So whether you're on speaking terms or not, whether your mother is here with us anymore or not, throw them a text, throw them a thought, give them a phone call, whatever the situation might be. Again, even if it's not the greatest of circumstances, unless, they're just not in the picture anymore by choice. But just let them know that you're thinking about them.
Absolutely. And I will say, as thank you for the sentiment toward Mrs. Rican, and say that I've been very blessed to not only have a great mom of my own, but to be on this journey with not only the 2 older ones who love her so much, but also obviously Bobby, who I'm learning more every day is his mother. But yeah, Jim's got his oral surgery, and guys, we are 2 weeks away from episode number 150, which we are going to start working on now. It is either going to be one of 2 things: a really short night or a good long one. We haven't decided yet. Well, I mean, come on, Jim. 100 was the Wisies, which is like a 2.5-hour free for all of stupidity at times.
Right.
This 150 could just be a.
Imagine us now with the pre-recorded format when the year-end holiday free-for-all comes around. How much of a cluster F is that going to be?
Yes. We've really got to incorporate the soundboard more, because I miss it.
When the new computer comes here, hopefully by Memorial Day, when we're back from our mini hiatus, I'm hoping that we can actually bring it back. We'll actually see, a lot more improvement. I'll be able to put actual software on there that I can't run with a Chromebook. So you'll definitely see a lot more improvement there. Again, you'll see the new intro inspired by our draft intro. So we hope to see you guys next week. We hope everyone has a great weekend. Hopefully it's starting to warm up in your neck of the woods. Cleveland can't seem to make up its mind. It was 75 degrees today. It's going to be 49 tomorrow. with rain. Mike, I'm going to be lucky if I see 70 degrees after my birthday, like 2 weeks after my birthday at this point anymore.
Yeah. It was 90 here today.
You just made the list.
I would have done Jeremy Piven.
Rusty cunt bucket.
Asking you shall receive. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week, everybody.